right. Today we're going to talk about Drew Peterson.
Oh, Drew. Another Peterson man. Never married man named Peterson.
Oh, these three Petersons they got to be related somehow.
You would think. They're so very. Oh, Drew is kind of out there by himself in a lot of ways.
Right.
I don't think I've ever seen an individual quite as arrogant.
That is true. After doing what he's done.
He's
Really.
just so arrogant.
Right. So let's get a few facts before we start talking about opinions, and because I have a lot about him.
Mm-hmm.
Drew Peterson was born on January the 5th, 1954. He graduated high school in 72, and in 74 he joined the military police.
Mm.
And then got all his training out of the way, and then in 1977 he joined the Bolingbroke Narcotics Unit. Then he, amongst all that, doing all that, he was getting married and divorced and married and divorced, married and divorced. So in 1974, the year he went into the military police, he married his first wife, Carol. He divorced her in 1980. In 1982, he married his second wife, Vicky. He divorced her in 1992. In that same year, he married Kathleen Savio.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're going to pick up this story. All of that is just backstory. They had 2 sons, and I don't think he was a very faithful man in any of them. And I also think he was abusive.
He, according to a stepdaughter of his, I saw a special, they talked to her, and she said he was abusive.
I can see that.
She pretty much says that the reason her mother wasn't killed is because she just walked off and left and let him take everything. She just let him have everything and didn't threaten him in any way, let him take all the money, everything.
Right. Didn't want anything from him.
Uh-huh.
She'd had enough from him.
Uh-huh. And she was probably the smartest one because she ended up alive.
Right. Well, two of them ended up alive. First 2.
The first 2, yeah.
The second 2 were not so lucky.
No.
So in 2001, their marriage was very rocky anyway.
Mm-hmm.
There's reports of him holding her hostage and not letting her leave the house and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2001, Kathleen receives a letter accusing Drew, who was 47, of having an affair with a 17-year-old Stacy Kales,
Uh-huh.
a front desk clerk at the Bolingbroke Hotel.
Oh, gosh.
So that kind of kicked in the divorce because Kathleen wasn't having none of that. Kathleen sends a letter to the Will County State's Attorney's Office saying she fears Peterson may kill her.
She was right.
And they divorced in 2003. But between 2002 and 2004, the police were called out to Kathleen's residence 18 times. Whether it's from domestic violence, somebody didn't drop the kids off on time, there's crazy stuff like that.
It seems like when he was with someone, he'd go younger every time. He'd go younger.
Mm-hmm.
And this little Stacy Kales is she's 19 when they get married.
And she was enamored with him. He's not a handsome man.
No.
I'm so confused with that. If he was a handsome man, then I would be like, oh, okay, I can see it.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's not no Scott Peterson.
No, Scott's cute.
Drew is not. Drew is not a handsome man. He was old. 47 years old. 30
She's
years
pretty-
her senior.
And all these girls are pretty.
She was beautiful.
All the women have been really pretty.
I don't
And he's just...
I don't understand. I think it was more like he made them feel beautiful.
I think
And
he's
he-
like a lot of abusive men in that they are very charming and they are very manipulative and they know how to reel you in.
Absolutely.
And you think you've met Prince Charming,
Right.
and it's just bad.
So in October of 2003, like their divorce was final in 2003, and he remarries Stacy in 2003. So he is then 49 and she is 19. They have a 3-month-old son at the time of their wedding. And then they had a daughter less than 2 years later. But amongst all that, there's a lot of drama.
It seems to me like too, because he'd have kids with all these women, that sometimes, I'll talk about women, so they're going to have a baby to kind of hang on to a man or to make things better. I think sometimes men have a woman, have children to hang on to her, to kind of, and it works in that way.
Right.
To kind of make her more dependent financially.
Sad.
And to tie her to it. It is so sad. And then in March of 2004, Kathleen Savio was found dead in her bathtub. It's ruled an accidental drowning.
Oh, but let's go back.
All right.
She's found dead because Drew had the kids. And he was bringing them home and nobody was there. And it was a long weekend. So he's like, well, maybe she decided to give me an extra day. So he takes them back to his house, which his house was like 2 doors down from hers. Like, who does that? Who does that? Who divorces their wife
and moves 2 doors down?
And moves 2 doors down with their new wife.
He was controlling.
Right.
He was. Now, I have heard, but it doesn't happen very often, let's just be honest. There have been people who live close together and split the kids up and have amicable relationships.
Right.
After they're divorced. That doesn't happen very often. There are some people who do divorce and co-parent well and stay friends. That just don't happen that often.
At all.
That's a shame, but it's how it is.
He calls her cell phone. He goes back to the house, knocks on the door. Nobody answers. He said that he was afraid of something happened to her. So he gets the neighbors to go in because he's still got a key. Is that correct? So he gets the neighbors to go into the house to find her. He didn't go in. He had the neighbors go in.
He didn't want to be the one to find her because that's
a little suspicious.
Sus. But the fact that he sent those neighbors in.
And her death is ruled an accidental drowning, but she was in a dry bathtub.
Let's point out that Drew Peterson is a policeman.
Right.
And I think the people investigating this were friends of his.
It is reported that around the time of Savio's death, Stacy wakes up to find Drew gone. She calls his cell phone, but he doesn't answer. He returns home after midnight, dressed in black and carrying a bag of women's clothes that don't belong to her. Like, I don't know how she stayed with him.
Scared.
So that's when Stacy goes and meets with the preacher and tells him all about it.
Yeah, that he coached her to provide a false alibi, and she did.
Right.
And then after that, in October of 2007, she's reported missing.
She should have seen that coming. But she was young.
She was young, and she was probably being abused and trying
She
to
was
stay
young
alive.
and impulsive. Like, she was impulsive.
Yeah. Well, if she'd have been smart, she would have married a 49-year-old man to start with.
This is true. This is so true.
Bless her heart. I think I read that she was like from a very chaotic home life and was probably looking for some stability.
Right. Well, I mean...
And I'm sure he was like a father figure to
Right,
her.
that's what I was going to say. She found a father figure in him. Well, I hope it wasn't a father figure because... Yikes. After Stacy's reported missing,
Mm-hmm.
they said Drew was the last person that seen her.
Mm-hmm.
As volunteers searched for Stacy on October 31st of 2007, Will County State's Attorney James Glasgow announces the plan to review Savio's death.
Smart move.
Right. On November the 9th, the police officially named Drew as a suspect in the disappearance of Stacy.
And then just 4 days later, they exhumed Savio's body, and her death is ruled a homicide.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's just a shame that it wasn't ruled a homicide
Before.
maybe Stacy would still be with us today.
Right. Like, I don't understand. Like, he was a policeman, so...
They give him the benefit of the doubt.
Which I don't agree with, because there's bad people in every profession, every walk of life, every
Yes.
race, color, creed. There's bad people everywhere. In December of 2008, he gets engaged to Christina Raines.
Oh, yes. Now, Christina, honey. Christina.
So.
Darling, he's got one missing and one dead.
A little over a year after Stacy
Has
went missing,
disappeared.
he's engaged. It's crazy to me. It's insane. Like, why?
Mhm.
Like, why?
What's Christina thinking?
Right. Why? I mean, that's the one that finally, like, broke it off. Right.
Yeah, I think she did end it with him. Especially like after he went to prison. That puts a damper on the relationship for some people.
Right.
Other people like being married to prisoners.
Yeah.
Which is strange, but there you are.
So it took them a year and a half,
Yeah.
about a year and a half, to gather evidence. And on May the 7th, 2009,
Mm-hmm.
Drew is charged with the murder of Kathleen.
Like we always say, the wheels of justice turn slowly.
Very slowly.
Slowly.
Like, you have to have pre-trial, post-trial,
And you know,
middle trial.
you want it done fairly so you can see it. And you
I
want people
agree.
to take their time to.
It's ridiculous how much time that these lawyers, like, and it's not the court system, it's the lawyers. The lawyers are going to try to push it out as far as they possibly can.
Yeah.
And it's insane. Like, if I'm going to court, like, let me just go, because I'm going to be a nervous wreck over here trying to figure out when I'm going to go and how's it's going to go, and like,
What's gonna happen?
just take me to court. Like, if I did it, I'm gonna plead guilty anyway, so it won't be no court.
Be like, yes, I killed him. Go ahead and lock me up.
Right. No, don't lock me up. Put me on death row. execute me next week. He was charged in May of 2009. In July of 2010, they finally start selecting a jury.
Mm-hmm. And then they delay it again for 2 more years.
Right, 2 years.
Over
But the prosecutors file a last minute appeal.
Over hearsay. That delays the trial for 2 years.
Right, 2 years. January of 2012 is when the movie with Rob Lowe comes out.
Yes. And I haven't watched that whole movie, but Rob Lowe creeps me out in that.
Right. And he portrays Drew as evil. As an evil person.
Yes.
Which, I mean, is true. So on July 31st, Judge Edward Bermilla rebukes prosecutors after the defense twice asked him to dismiss the case because the state's use of inadmissible and prejudicial statements. So it's like the defense said, look, they're putting stuff in here that's not supposed to be in here. You done ruled.
Mm-hmm.
And these statements are bogus. So we want to just dismiss the case. Just let it go. Just let it go because, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge says, no. Prosecutors, be good.
Do yourselves.
So that's what happened there. So they did not dismiss the case of murder charges for Kathleen.
The defense calls a witness that testifies that Stacy Peterson told him that Drew Peterson murdered Savio.
Right. That was a defense witness.
Yes. It was a divorce lawyer that she went to see. And
so they messed themselves up.
they did.
You want to talk about prejudicial?
I got a theory about it because I like watching some stuff about the defense lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
He's no longer Drew Peterson's lawyer, the lead in this case. Now, one that worked under him is representing Drew in his appeals and everything. And he said that was the worst thing ever. And you know, first rule, and we're not even lawyers, is you never put a witness on the stand you don't know what they're going to say.
Right.
And he put him on the stand saying that he was going to say that Stacy was willing to say anything to get a good settlement out of a divorce with Drew. And the lawyer goes, no, that wasn't what she said. She said he killed her.
She's probably afraid now
Mm-hmm.
that they're no longer
Getting along. He's probably messing with someone else.
in the honeymoon stage.
We kind of said this about Jeffrey McDonald's lawyer. You know how at the end of that trial, he did the 3-hour lecture about what a raw deal Jeffries had and pretty much lost the case instead of letting
Right.
the good old Southern boy bring it home and win it for him.
And it's almost like purposefully.
And this is what this makes me think of, which if they admitted that, they'd be disbarred.
Right.
It would be a big grounds for appeal. It seems like, oh, he's guilty, let's take it.
Right. I mean,
Doesn't it?
it does. September 6th in 2012, after 2 days of deliberations, the jury finds Drew guilty of the murder of Kathleen Savio.
And Stacy's never been found.
November the 16th, Peterson requests a new trial, citing ineffective counsel and mistakes by his legal team. which they're human. Everybody makes mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it takes all the way to February the 21st of
Takes a year.
2013 for the judge to deny the new trial motion. And he sentences him to 38 years in prison for murder.
You know, 38 years is a long time, but it's not that long, is it?
Right. Also, in February of 2015, Drew is showing his true colors again, being stupid, because he tries to put a hit out on James Glasgow, the lead prosecutor for the Will County murder trial. Like, the lead prosecutor, he tries to put a hit out on him.
That's just nothing but revenge, because it would do him no good at this point for that man to be dead.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So he's charged for trying to get a murder for hire. And in May of 2016, the trial starts for that. Randolph County, Illinois.
But this part goes quicker.
The trial started on May 23rd. By May 31st, it only took the jury 1 hour to find Drew guilty of solicitation of murder. Drew is like 62 years old by this time. He was sentenced longer for trying to put a hit on somebody than actually murdering somebody, because he got 38 years for the murder and 40 years for the murder to hire, which makes no sense, but it was a judge. They were to run one after the other.
It starts after his 38 prison term, so he's not going to live to get out unless
Right.
come up with something else.
Like, so in September 21st of 2017, the Illinois Supreme Court upheld the murder conviction of Drew Peterson in the death of Kathleen Savio. The High Court, in a unanimous decision, found that the use of hearsay testimony to convict the former Bolingbrook police officer was proper and did not violate his constitutional right to confront his accusers, because it was his wife who was missing that was saying this to people. February the 21st, 2017, he was transferred into the federal prison. He was moved to Terre Haute, Indiana, according to sources. So he appealed again. In January of 2018, the Supreme Court upheld the conviction again. It's sad because poor Stacy, they've never found her body.
Mm-hmm.
No one's ever been charged with her murder. There's just no justice for her. I mean, even though he's behind bars, her family, like, they don't know where she's at.
No, they don't.
Like, he should tell them where she is, where her body is. But he has always upheld that she just ran off.
Yeah, she kind of got a bikini and some money and left with another man.
And just didn't look back. Left her kids.
Left her little children.
Now, that's one thing that all the reports I have read said that he was a good father. Every report that I've ever read about him being a father was that he was a good father. So, but I mean, when you kill somebody's mother, that's not being a good
That's
father.
not been a good father, no.
But with just like interactions between him
With
and
him and
his
his
kids,
children.
he wasn't abusive to them. He wasn't, you know.
He wasn't abusive to them. He was abusive to his wife.
And you could argue that them seeing him being abusive
to his wives
is abusive in itself to the children,
Mm-hmm.
because that's their mother,
That's true.
whatever. But So this is the case of Drew Peterson. And I think he did it. I think he did more than what even these reports say.
Oh yeah.
I don't think he started with his third wife. I think there's other things before that that nobody, like he covered up. He was in the police department, so he covered it up. Now, I can't be 100% about that, so I don't want to, like, be no defamation of character or anything, but that's my opinion. I just don't think it started with her, with Kathleen.
No.
So, but his poor children, like,
You know, his oldest one was a policeman, and he lost his job after this. I don't know if that was fair or not. Probably not.
it wasn't. Because, I mean, it's not his fault that
That his father.
his father is who he is.
Uh-uh.
But I can kind of see both sides of that.
I can kind of see both sides of that too, but it's kind of.
I mean,
ridiculous. He was.
the sins of the father is visited upon the son. Like,
Latest news about him is he's.
It happens in everywhere. You know.
Latest news on his oldest son is he was arrested for growing marijuana.
Cultivation.
A lot of marijuana, and it's in Illinois, so you can grow like I think up to 5 plants for your own medical use. But they said no, it was way beyond that.
All right, thank you guys, and we'll be back with another Peterson.
We will. One more to go.
One more.